Welcome to the Fi Guys podcast. Today we're going to be going over the 12 money secrets I wish I knew when I got started. And be sure to stick around to the end because we might just have an extra one for you. This is the Fi Guys. Let's get started. And we're back. So Dom, today we're going to be going over the 12 secrets, maybe 13 secrets that I wish I knew when I was getting started in finances. You know, as a financial advisor, I've had the joy of being able to work with a bunch of different people that run the gamut. People who are making their first $30,000 right out of college to multimillionaires. And the thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people struggle with the exact same issues over and over and over again. So today, when we go over some of these money secrets, quote unquote, there might be some that our listeners are going to hear and say, well, yeah, that's obvious, Chris. Like, why are you even telling us these things? This is not even really a secret. But I would ask our listener to actually internalize that, look at that quote unquote money secret and say, am I implementing it to my life? Or do I just hear that and say, that's so basic, doesn't even apply to me?
Yeah, because sometimes it's so basic and everybody knows it's common sense, but we forget to implement it. So today's kind of a refresh. Some of the 12 are a little bit of a refresher, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be money secrets that I notice trip people up, regardless if they are $30,000 right out of college, not making very much money. And I've noticed people who are multimillionaires who run into these same exact issues. So I think it's good to talk about these things, because if you go online and you look up what are the money secrets that I need to know, most people are talking about you need to buy XYZ stock, you need to buy this crypto, you need to be invested in this thing. And we're talking about the things that's sexy, the sexy thing that everyone wants to be talking about. You know, at the time of this recording, GameStop's going back up because Roaring Kitty came back. And he sent out a tweet. So everyone's now up that and talking about that, but no one's focusing on these most important things, the actual money secrets, the things that are going to get you good with money. We're not focusing on these little blips on the radar. We're focusing on changing our habits and our systems, because these blips, like watching GameStop go to the moon or Tesla or Dogecoin or whatever it is go to the moon, those are momentary. And maybe you'll be able to catch the wave and, get a great gain, but those things are unsustainable. Where if we figure out our systems, our habits, and really work on these money secrets and internalize them and make sure we're applying them to ourselves, we'll be able to see that over the long term, we can grow a lot farther than focusing on these short-term sexy moments, quote unquote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that being said, can we get into it? I'm excited. You got me on the edge of my seat.
So secret number one, it's not what you earn, it's what you spend. So it might seem pretty basic, right? Most people are like, yeah, Chris, obviously, if I spend more money than I make, it's not going to be good financially. And everyone sounds that and says that. And when you say it to them, they're like, yeah, of course, that's obvious. But have you actually done an audit of your own finances? Do you know how much money is coming in? More importantly, do you know how much money is going out?
Gosh, isn't that the truth? Yeah, I mean, we talk about it on the podcast all the time. Like, people are always asking, like, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? It's like, okay, you know how much you make? Do you know how much you spend? That's just the basic. That's the basic. You can't go much further if you don't know that information.
Yeah. And so many, especially in America, and I know that we have people in different countries that listen to us, and I'm sure that this premise is going to basically fall no matter where you are in the world. We don't focus on how much you spend. We only focus on how much you earn. Because the way that you make it to be quote unquote successful is you have to be making 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever that number is to you. And the messed up part is it's a sliding scale. Whenever you hit your goal, the goal moves on to the next thing. And the reason for that is that we're not focusing on our spending habits. We're never making sure that we align our financial goals with what we actually want in life. So we focus on making more money, but we never actually think about how am I spending my money? And is that in line with my goals, my values, and what I want to live my life about?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. God, that's true. It's almost sad. Excuse me. It's almost sad how true that is, because people are struggling and they need this information. So I'm glad we're doing a podcast on the secrets,
Yeah. And I think the big thing when it comes to secret number one is don't get caught up in the idea that earning a certain amount of money, whether that be 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever it is automatically going to make you successful. Because I have had clients before who were making $500,000 a year. One individual was making $500,000 a year, and the spouse didn't even have to work. And
good living.
They had investment accounts worth nothing. because what they were doing was they were making $500,000 a year, maybe more with bonuses, but they were spending $700,000 a year. They were spending far more than they could ever bring in. So had I told that person, hey, you have a great income, and I did, of course, you have a great income, but you're not saving anything, and they didn't want to hear it. Where I've had other clients who were right out of college making $30,000 a year, and while they might not have as many things that have material wealth as that person did, their net worth in terms of the assets they owned was actually substantially higher than the other person who had a bunch of debt and other things because they were constantly running themselves into the ground. Where the person making $30,000 maybe only had a car to their name, maybe only had $500 in their savings account. Well, the other guy who was making $500,000 a year was basically $200,000 in debt at all times. So who's winning? The guy with $500 or the guy who's negative $500,000?
Yeah. That's that's an interesting thing to think about. You know, when you hear someone saying they're making 500,000 or more a year, but they're blowing 700,000, it's like the math isn't mathing. You know, that's crazy. And then I always remember, not to get political or anything like that, but I remember reading this story about Donald Trump, and this was like at the height of his fame in like the 90s or whatever, and he was like walking with, I don't know if it was his daughter or someone.
It was his daughter.
It was his daughter, yeah. And he's like, he's like, you see that homeless guy right there? Like, he's $980 million richer than I am. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm in the hole $980 million. And it's just like, it goes to show, it's like you can have the power, you can have the fame, the notoriety, and even the money. But, you know, if things on paper aren't balancing, if you're spending more than you're earning, well, I mean, it doesn't get any more simpler than that. It's not sustainable. Not sustainable at all.
Yeah. So while you might hear this, listener, and say like, oh, that's really basic, I would challenge you to go and look at your finances and make sure that you're on the right side of the ledger. Make sure you are bringing in more than you're spending. You know, even if you are saving a good amount of money, some people, what they'll do is they'll put 5%, 10%, shoot 12% into their 401ks and be like, I'm saving for my retirement. But every single month, they're putting themselves into the red with credit card debt. And I would say, like, it's great to save for your retirement, and you definitely should at least get that match at your 401k. But we also need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves financially right now. It doesn't make sense to invest over into our 401k if we're running up 20 or 30% interest on our credit cards every day. And that's something that, you know, working with a financial advisor maybe, or internalizing these thoughts to yourself and looking at it and being aware of it. Not everyone needs an advisor, but everyone needs to get control of their own money. And sometimes people need that accountability with an advisor. But with that, I still would get into money secret number 2.
Okay, let's do it.
Beware of lifestyle creep.
Oh, creep. Okay. It's not a person, right? There's no one creeping around the corner.
No, there's no creep named Lifestyle who's just following you around the corner. No.
Okay.
No, but lifestyle creep, I think, is one of the biggest detriments to people ever being able to achieve financial independence and be able to achieve their financial goals. I think we can all remember, and Dom, you tell me if this is true for you. I remember when I got out of college and I said, man, if I could make $50,000, I'd be so happy. Like, I'd have everything that I ever needed, because I was living off ramen in a room. And then I made $50,000. And then with that $50,000, my lifestyle increased to $50,000. Now I could have my own apartment. Now I could eat, you know, actual meat, like not just bologna. You know, now I can eat actual meat. Now I can eat a little better things. And then I was like, oh, no, maybe it's not the 50. When I get to 6 figures, when I'm making $100,000, I'll be good. But when I made $100,000, now I had a house. Now I had a car. Now I had a cold plunge and all these other things that my life had grown up to. And I start to feel like, oh no, I didn't make it again. So be careful of lifestyle creep, especially when you're in your 20s and 30s. Make sure that the people that you keep around you, your friends, they might be buying nicer cars. They might be buying houses. But are they in the financial position to keep doing that? And more importantly, are you in the financial position to keep up with them as they buy houses, as they buy cars? And if you're not, don't even try to play that game with them. You can play a very different game. You can play this game of financial independence if you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big one. Very, very, very big one in today's society. And, you know, I think it's interesting because we think of like rich people as smart with money, and most of them are. But that lifestyle creep is that definitely happens to them in a big way, correct?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of people that we think as quote unquote are rich, they're good at making money.
Mm,
And some of them are good at keeping money, but a majority of them are good at making money, but that does not make them wealthy. It makes them capable of making a lot of money. It makes them rich. But
yeah.
wealthy means that you have assets, you have things that are growing in stock. If you look at your net worth or your balance sheet and you see you total up all the money that's coming in versus all the debt, unfortunately, from what I've seen working with people as a financial advisor, is the people who have more money often have more debt. So their balance sheet is all kind of off, where you're still going to have that negative net worth as you have more money, because unfortunately you have a lot more ability to get more credit to you in order to take out more liability against you.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that is true. I guess that is true. Huh. Yeah, so
Yeah,
don't
because if
let
you're
the
making
yeah, go for it. Go for
because if you're making like $30,000, we've talked about this before, that there's not going to be that many people that are going to loan to you that much. You're not going to be able to put yourself in as bad a financial hole as someone who's making a lot of money. Because you're making a lot of money, it means that quote unquote you should be able to pay it off, and you are savvy with money. I mean, even being an accredited investor doesn't open up until you have $1 million net worth. And just because you made $1 million investing in a business, investing in yourself, working and making money, that doesn't mean that you're a good investor. But unfortunately, the way that our laws work is when you have $1 million in net worth, you become a quote unquote accredited investor, where you can begin to invest in more risky assets. Well, most of these people really never invested into anything their entire time. They just now got this like magic access to be able to invest in things that are high more risk, because we believe that they have the propensity to take on that risk because they should be smarter with their money.
it. Interesting. I didn't know that about the accredited investor. So it's anyone above $1 million, right?
In net worth investments, so primary home is not counted towards
Not
that, but yeah.
included. Okay. Yeah. Because I always hear like I'll watch like different like real estate personalities and like investor groups and whatnot, and they're like accredited investors only, and I'm like, what does that mean? And it's interesting that it's $1 million net worth, not counting your house and whatnot.
Yep.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
So as we beware of lifestyle creep, just please try to keep your fixed expenses somewhat stable and reasonable for what you make. I always like to say, if there's that 50-30-20 rule, right? So as your lifestyle increases, that 50% towards your fixed costs, that also gets to increase. But from what I've seen and what a lot of people have is, as their money increases, that 50% is increasing too. And now it's going 50 to 60 to 70 to 80. And now when we're trying to figure out, hey, you're making $300,000 a year between the two of you, where is all this money going? And we'll go ahead and we'll break everything out, and we'll see that, $300,000 is going just to fixed costs.
Yeah.
Just to supporting the cars, the house, the food. And now we have no money for savings, no money for taxes, no money for just having fun in life, being able to have that discretionary money to go travel and do these things. And the people will say, I'm making $300,000, I'm making all this money, but where's it all going? It's because they forgot to look at the first money secret number one. It's not what you make, it's what you spend. And money secret number two, beware of the lifestyle creep, because it can really get you. Money secret number three, everything can be negotiated. And I know that some days people are afraid to negotiate. We're afraid to talk to people. God forbid we ask somebody, hey, can I get a discount on this? Or, hey, this is a lot of money for me. Can I do 20% off? Do you have a student discount, a military discount, or whatever it is? We get so afraid because what if the person rejects us? I think it's always important, though, to remember that when you're making a request of somebody else, they're also put inside the hot seat too. They also have to be that person. If they say no, they have to feel like an asshole for telling you no. So we have a lot more power than we think we do in negotiation. There's always room to negotiate. And the place that I think about this a lot is for credit card annual fees.
Mm.
There has not been a time in the past few years that I have called on my credit cards, because I have many credit cards. Some have upwards of $700 in annual fees. At the time of this recording, I was able to get my American Express Platinum, the $700 annual fee, brought down to $400.
Nice. Yeah, the
So
700, that's a big one.
So they decreased it by $300 simply by me just calling and asking, because I've been a good client. So I think a lot of us, we look at it and say, oh, well, I'm already going to spend the money and it's not worth it. But the way I look at it is, if someone told me, hey, Chris, if you make this phone call, I will give you $300.
Ooh,
I'd be pretty stupid to be like,
ooh, That's a great way of looking at it. Wow.
Yep.
That changed the narrative
I
completely.
Yep. I'd be pretty stupid to be like, I don't want to make that phone call or talk to
Yeah.
someone for $300. But people will often be like, hey, if you make this call, you could save $300. People go, oh, I don't care about that. But logically, it's the exact same thing. It's $300 in your pocketbook that you can do whatever you want with. So flip the script. You always have the ability to negotiate, and don't be afraid of negotiating in order to save yourself some money, because you
Yeah.
don't know how far that can go.
That's so interesting. I love the mental flip on that one. Rather than it's gonna save me money, it's like, no, I'm literally getting $300 for this phone call. That is a
Mm-hmm.
complete energy shift. Wow, it's like a little judo move.
Yeah, that's my jujitsu move of the day for finance. But I mean, I did this a lot. I had to reframe this a lot during college in order for me to be able to pay to go to college. You know, a lot of people, they refuse to do grants, or they refuse to sign up for scholarships because they looked at it as like, oh, I'm gonna have to write this letter and do all this stuff to save what, $1,000, $2,000 out of my $60,000 tuition. Well, I had to reframe it in my own head by doing some financial jujitsu and say, rather than me saving $1,000 by writing this one essay that's a page long, I made $1,000 by writing, and then by repeating that same essay over and over and over again. I made $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 by just reusing the same thing. And that's the way I looked at it. Every time, is my hour of writing that letter worth $1,000? 100% it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're already writing essays as is. You're not getting paid for it. I also get paid
Mm-hmm.
for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's not only a financial thing, but I think going through life, if you can be able to switch the way you look at things in a manner like that, dude, you'd be unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Yeah, so much of your mind frame dictates how you react to things. So if you just think it through a little bit more, you can be the half glass empty person or the half glass full.
Yep.
And both ways are 100% correct, but one of them is far more empowering than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, so we got some good ones so far. Let's keep the train rolling. What do we got?
Yeah, keep this good time rolling. So money secret number 4, the rich and the wealthy, the people that I have worked with, don't rely on one source of income. They have multiple sources of income, typically at least 3 from what I've been able to find by working with some of my wealthier clients. So where most of us here are thinking like, oh, I just need to make more money in my job. People that actually become quote unquote wealthy and have money have multiple income streams. They have their job, they have stocks, they have a side business, they have real estate as well. So what ways can we try to look to start to create multiple income streams for ourselves? And this doesn't have to be something crazy. Can we start on the side walking a dog? Can we start a YouTube channel on the side? And that means that at first, it doesn't mean that the source of income that you're trying to create needs to start producing money right away. But we're trying to diversify our income. So in case that thing does happen, in case we lose our job, God forbid, or something like that happens, we have these other things we've already gotten started. Because it's going to be a lot harder to start a YouTube channel to try to make money, or start a side business to try to make money when you don't have that income. When you have income, you're already making money. You could have this as a side project. Well, now it's fun. Now we get to test it out. It's not the stress that it could be if you're really going all in and you burnt the boats. And now we're trying to figure out, how am I going to survive this next month?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. So for someone who's just getting started, you think that they should maybe take not necessarily a second job, but have their primary job and maybe do like you said, like dog walking or side hustle, or like maybe like DoorDash or Grubhub or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be a good thing. And remember that at first you're going to be replacing your time for your money. You're going to have to make that trade. I'm trading my time and my energy for money. But eventually we want to build up systems, processes, different businesses, if that may be real estate or stocks or just whatever income generating opportunities we have, that we can remove ourselves from them. You know, just like look at us in this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is a marketing tool and a way for us to be able to put things out into the internet. We do this work one time. We dedicate an hour to this one podcast. And from there, it goes on YouTube, it goes on Spotify, it goes on all these other platforms. And now we have a little army of us going out into the world and making money indefinitely. And that was from an hour of our time plus prep work on the beginning and some prep work and some, prep work on the backside. So we're no longer, we have become unhinged from trying to trade our time for money, because for an hour of podcasting, we might be able to reach 100,000 people. Where if we were to say, let's go ahead and let's do a seminar, and now we're going to have to purchase a room to bring everyone in, we might get 60 people.
If you're lucky.
We have to make, if we're lucky, we have to make that time value and say, is that really worth it? Or is it better just to take the hour of our time, and that could reach the masses so much easier?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I love the internet's a great thing, isn't it? I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so multiple income streams. I like that. I like that.
And that could even be simple. It could just be investing in stocks.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have two income streams. You could have your job and then invest in stocks on the side. And of course, we're going to recommend that you're not just like going with the meme craze or anything like that. Yep. Please stick to sound investment principles like we talk about here on the Five Guys.
Yep.
Don't be thinking like, oh, I'm going to trade options. That's how I need to make my additional side income.
Yeah, it's like you can be successful in any area. That doesn't mean that we recommend every area,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I like that. So it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be an extra $5,000 a month, 10,000. It doesn't have to be a large sum of money. It can be, great beginnings have a small start, right?
Yes, and that's what I want to talk about. Is it's always important that as you're getting started in your job, maybe you're just working that job and that's all you can handle. But as you start to get better, we can start to level up. So this doesn't mean if you're hearing this, you only have your job right now. I'm not saying you forgo the job or start focusing on trying to make two other income things at the detriment of your job. Be good at your job first. That's going to be the thing that's bringing your money. But also start looking for how can we reverse engineer what I want in the future. Look 10 years in the future and say, how do I want to be making money? I'm going to be working my job. Maybe I have some investments. Maybe I have some real estate. What can I do to reverse engineer to today to start working towards that future for myself?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I always find that reverse engineering it is such a beneficial way to get from the end point, like we say, start with your why, start with your end in mind, and then, like you say, reverse engineer it and go from there. I think that's so brilliant, because if you start from the beginning and it's like, okay, now how can I get over here? It's like, I don't know, it just seems more difficult to me.
Yeah. Yes. If you start with the end in mind, because if not, if say you're someone who wants to start a YouTube channel, and eventually I ask you, hey, Dom, what's your thought on how you're going to monetize this? You're like, oh, I don't know. I'm just going to figure it out when I get there. And maybe you're doing like a gaming channel, but the best way to make money is by selling a product, and you're like, oh, I'm going to sell this product. And it's like, well, what have you done this entire time through to build yourself up to be this person to sell products? You're like, I'm playing video games. All right, well, that income stream probably isn't going to be the best one for you. Maybe we could look at like someone monetizing you through like an affiliate or something like that, but you're not going to be able to transition it or sell it to like a business or anything like that.
No.
So start with the end in mind, because you'll be able to figure out where you want to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Starting with the end in mind. So getting back onto, I think we're on number 4. So we're going to the 5th one now.
Yep. We're going number 5.
Let's do it.
Your credit score is worth more than you think.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Of course it is. So it's always good to have a good credit score. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, nowadays, they've kind of been like, credit doesn't really matter, because they've listened to Dave Ramsey for too long and say like, if I have a good credit score, that just means that I love debt. But having a good credit score is far more than that. It can get you a good interest on your house, which can save you thousands of dollars. There are very few people out there, especially today, that can go and buy straight cash for a house. So you're going to need that credit score. And, just a couple percent or just a couple of points of your credit score can mean a couple of points on your interest rate, or a couple of percentage points on your interest rate, which could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. In addition to that, when you go out and you maybe are renting an apartment, they can pull your credit score. When you want to purchase a car, they're pulling your credit score. Even jobs will pull your credit score to see, is this person have a good history on these things? So it's very important that we're making sure that we take care of our credit, and we're looking at all those things.
Interesting. Yeah. I have a friend who's recently looking for a car, and they have a really great credit score, but the APR is still really high. It's like 12%. And it's like, man, I feel bad for anybody who's in the 600s or the 400, the 500. I'm like, they're getting destroyed right now. So, yeah, no, credit score, definitely. Listen, if you think about it, is it better to have a better credit score or a worse credit score? Come on, guys. That's one of the common sense ones of today's pod. Like, Obviously,
And
it's
if
always better to have a better credit score. Obviously.
Yep.
It's just,
It always is. But I think some people they'll look at that bad credit score that they might have from a mistake they made in the past, and they'll be like, you know what? It's not even worth trying. Why even bother? The credit, I don't like debt, so I'm not even going to do it. And they'll try to take on that persona. If you want to learn more about credit scores, I would recommend going back to episode 26 of the Five Guys podcast. We broke down every way to increase your credit score, how the credit score is built up. But one quick way that I like actually telling people to quickly increase your credit score, which unfortunately does decrease it slightly at the beginning, is actually opening up another credit card. And that's if you have good credit card habits. But if you have one credit card and you're maxing out that credit card every year,
mm-hmm.
the second largest way that creditors will look at what your credit score is based off your credit utilization. So if you're maxing out a card at 100% every month and you open up a second card that has the same amount, well, now your credit utilization has gone from 100% to 50%. That's also making sure that you are financially savvy enough to not get another credit card and then run that one up as well to 100%. So now we're taking in the secrets of secret number 5 and secret number 2, beware of lifestyle creep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That credit card to get your credit score higher. That's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah,
that
but
one.
remember, at first it will take a dip. So you'll be like, because you just did a hard pull, but that dip is momentary. Where the long term of having a higher ability to utilize your card is long term. But if you go to episode 26, I've been told our listeners on how to have a lower utilization with a lower limit. So please go back and listen to that episode because that's always there for you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So we get some good tips in here right now. We got some good tips in here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, let's keep the train rolling. Let's keep it going.
Yep. So number 6, buy used vehicles.
Interesting.
And I know that a lot of people hear that and they're like, but I want my new car. And Chris bought a new car. He's talked about purchasing a new car before. So is Chris sticking to what he's saying? And no, I'm not. I purchased brand new vehicles, but also I'm at a point in my life that I can purchase new vehicles and it's not going to make or break me. So I think I'm okay there.
Yeah.
But remember that when you purchase a brand new vehicle, the moment you turn that off, the moment you go off that lot, you make that first left, even if you just decide, make another left, go back into that parking lot and say, hey, I made a mistake. I don't want to buy this anymore. Okay, cool. We'll buy that back for 50% less than you just purchased it for.
Dude, that's rough. That's rough. It's interesting though. I will say, I'm gonna push back a little bit. The used car market is so expensive these days. Like,
that is true.
It's crazy. Like I was looking at, helping my friend look at the used car, like I was saying before, and it's like, for some of these cars, like they just want an arm and a leg. It's interesting because we're at a place where it's like, well, damn it, I might as well buy new. It's like, why would I spend this much money for a car who has 60,000 miles on it? It's such a weird time in the car market right now. I feel bad for anybody who's in it.
Yes.
God bless the Buick. Big shout out to my beautiful Buick. I love that thing. I know it gets some hate. It's an old man car, but let me tell you, I love that car. I love it.
Yes, and right now things are a little bit out of whack. So I will capitulate to that and say that you're exactly right. That sometimes buying a new car can actually be cheaper than a used car because you buy a new car, you also get rebates and incentives. Mm-hmm. But on the whole, buying a used car in general, and who knows if that might be in another year or another 2 years when things kind of go back to normal. Maybe we have a listener that's listening to this in 2 years and they're like, oh, well, it's not like that anymore. Just remember that new cars depreciate quickly, so you can still buy a slightly used car, maybe one that has 1,000 miles on it, a few hundred miles on it, and you'll be able to have that car, save a significant amount of money, and still have the benefit of having a new car without that price tag.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know for me, I know my mom, she bought her car from AAA once, and it had less than 1,000 miles, like 500 miles on it, something really low, like super, super low. And they classified it as a used vehicle. Yep. And she got a good discount on it, and it was brand new. Brand new.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my Victory motorcycle that's sitting in my garage right now, when that was purchased, it had 300 miles on it. So I purchased in San Diego. There was a Marine who purchased the bike, mm-hmm. said, this is a beautiful bike. And then he got orders that he was going to be deploying to another place. Oh. So he sold the bike. It was just like a brand new motorcycle. So when I was on the show floor, it was, hey, you can purchase this brand new Victory motorcycle for $12,000. And I was like, okay, I can afford that. But here's a used vehicle that is used, 300 miles on it because it was sold to somebody, and it's half the price. So of course I went with the one that was half the price, only 300 miles. Now, of course, it's a unique situation. Those vehicles are hard to find, but you can still have the benefit of a newer car without the new car price tag.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a hack that historically always hits. That's a great hack. It's like one of the
Yep.
it's like one of the basic rules of like fatherhood. It's like you hear that from like a dad or something. They're like, "Oh, never buy a used car." My dad loves to bring that one
Yep.
up. Oh,
Yeah, and that's okay because remember, for me, I don't listen to this rule. I always buy new cars, but I buy new cars with the intention that I'm going to keep it until it dies. Like, I don't sell cars until either it goes out completely or I get into a car crash or something like that and it's gone.
yeah.
But I think maybe on my next car I might buy a used car. I don't know. It depends on where I'm looking at, where I am in life.
Mhm.
So let's move on to money secret number 7.
Let's do it.
You can recover from any money mistake. We all make mistakes in life with money, but it's important to forgive yourself and learn from them. I've met people who, and I've made money mistakes myself, and I've talked about those things openly on the podcast. And that's still, and even with those money mistakes I've made myself, I can still call myself a financial professional. I'm still an advisor. I can still coach people. And by making these mistakes, I'm able to learn from them and be able to teach them to you, our audience members, so that you don't have to make these same exact mistakes. The most important thing is that you learn from your mistake, you forgive yourself, and you figure out a way to move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the things a lot of people struggle with is forgiveness of their own self. They just, I don't know why. Do you have any reason, any idea why it's so hard to forgive yourself sometimes? You beat yourself up a little bit.
I think a lot of us, a lot of people, they want to take ownership of their life, but I see a lot of people pushing that away. But I think when we make those mistakes, it's easier for us to say, oh, just be hard on yourself, because that also gives you a way out. You get to say, oh, I'm just not good with money, so I don't have to engage with money.
Yeah.
But regardless if you're good or not good with money, money is still a part of your life. And being good with money is just a skill. And a skill like archery, like jujitsu, like going to the gym, like swimming. These are things we can get better at if we put time and effort into them. No one woke up and decided like, oh, I'm going to go and be a professional shooter today. That's something that you have to put a bunch of skill and effort into. It's the exact same thing with money.
Absolutely.
You're not just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm great with money now. I finally figured it out. It's consistent effort over time that's going to lead to the results that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can prophesize it. You can say it. You can speak it into existence. But at the end of the day, you have to act. You have to act. I can't just be like, hey, Chris, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the best swimmer in the world. Like Olympic level, like Michael Phelps level. It's like, no, Dom, I haven't swam in 2 years. Like, no, you have to put in the work if you want to get what you're saying, and most people don't, and that's what's so sad about it.
Yeah, and to go to your thing, maybe you say like, I'm the best swimmer in the world. You go into a meet with somebody, and you're like, I'm going to swim against them, and you get demolished because you have no idea what you're doing. Now you could either take that and say like, I'm not a good swimmer, I should never learn to swim, or you can take that as motivation and say, all right, I learned from my mistake. Now I know what I need to do to prevent for future mistakes. Maybe not enroll into a meet that I'm not qualified for, but at that point I need to start practicing so I can build myself a solid enough foundation in order to move forward and not make the same mistake again. You might be able to get to Olympic level, but that means you have to put in the time, the effort, and the consistency. Same with your finances. You will be able to become wealthy if you're able to put in the time, the effort, and the consistency to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth it. In the end, it is worth it, right? You can attest to that.
Yep. So, money secret number 8. How we were raised affects our money decisions today. One of the first questions I ask all of my financial planning clients is, what did your parents teach you about money?
Usually nothing.
Based off what they say, yeah, well, sometimes it is nothing, but even them teaching them nothing is still them teaching you something. And most people learn about money not through what your parents legitimately teach you, by you like sitting down at the table and them like pulling out spreadsheets or whatever. What you learn from your parents when it comes to money are the little things that were said. Oh, we can't afford that. Oh, we don't have money for that. Oh, the stock market's down. We just lost all this money. It's those little comments that you say to people as kids. Oh, damn it, I lost all this money in the stock market. Stock market is basically gambling. It's those little things that you tell a kid that they don't know. And then eventually when they become adults, these small quips that your parents might have thrown out there make huge financial ramifications on you in the future, where people may be afraid to invest. They might be afraid to get a credit card. They might be afraid to do all these things. So when someone comes like us, the Fi Guys, and we say, hey, there's different ways to look at money, they freak out. They're like, no, 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 no. I was taught this. And it's always hard to unwire something that you know.
Absolutely.
So reflect on your money that you were discussed or that you valued in your childhood, and say, what I taught when I was taught in my childhood, does that still serve me today? Is that still true today? Because your parents may be in a very different situation than you are in now.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, not only a different situation, but a whole different century, probably. So the climate around money is a lot different. Things were cheaper, but in today's era, it's easier to make money, maybe, right? So there's gives and takes, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
also I find that
I think it's a
just to touch before we move on to the next point, I find that oftentimes as well, it's almost not so much what they tell us or don't tell us about money, it's what we observe about the money too. It's like, oh, they're in credit card debt, they're fine. Hey, at least they put food on the table. It's like, yes, but just you can only dig so deep before the hole collapses in on you, right?
Yep.
And you got to take a first step to recover. And the good thing is that you can recover from your financial mistakes, whether that be, bootstrapping it, cutting things or whatever, or just straight up bankruptcy, which we have a whole podcast where we talked about that and how that's not as simple and easy as one might have assumed. But yeah, absolutely.
I think it's just important to understand how your upbringing may be influencing your current financial situations and decisions today. One thing I was talking with my friend this weekend when we were hiking is he was saying, like, I just really need to buy a house. Like, I need to buy a house. I need to buy a house. And eventually I asked him, like, well, why do you need to buy this house? Like,
Yeah.
what's going to change if you have this house? Because you have a nice rental right now. I've been to your house. It looks great. And he goes, well, that's the way that you build your finances. It's an investment in your future. It's all these things. And then we kind of dug deeper, and his parents, they purchased their first house and they never saved for retirement. All of their money was in their home. So for them, when they tell him that, like, the only way to make money is to purchase a house and the house will appreciate, because that's the way they were able to fund, or that's they're still working to this day because that's all they have. And that's the only thing that they knew. But he has more information now. He knows that, oh, I can invest money into the stock market. I can do other things. And his parents lived in a very different situation. When his parents purchased their house 30, 40 years ago, you could buy it for 2 nickels and a raspberry. But nowadays, it's going to take 20% down on a $500,000 home that's a starter. So just very different situations, very different things, but we're still taking what we learned as a kid and applying it to today, when those thoughts, those beliefs may not serve us anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good point. I think that's a very good point. What do we got for the next one? Can't be better than that one, right? That's a pretty good one.
There's always something better. That is a good one though. And then money secret number 9, grow your money above inflation.
Dude, okay. That one might be better. I don't know. That one might be better. That's like an intermediate move. I like that. The last one's starter move. This one's a little bit intermediate. Explain that one to us, Chris.
Yeah. So we just want to make sure we're investing our money wisely to ensure that we're growing past inflation. And remember that inflation basically means that your money is losing purchasing power every day due to the rate that the government is printing more and more money. Typically, the rate of inflation was 3%. Sometimes it was at 0%. Right now, it's around 5-6%. And I think we all remember during COVID, it was at like 8%. So these things fluctuate, but on average, it's about 3%. So there's a lot of people that say, oh, Chris, I'm doing really well financially. I've saved up $10,000 that I keep inside my bank account. And then I go, that's great that you saved up $10,000. What are we doing with that $10,000? Do we have any other investments that are growing over inflation? Because even now with some of the higher yielding bank accounts through like SoFi or Wealthfront or whatever they are, they might be yielding 2-3%. But if inflation is still at 5-6%, you're still losing out to that huge inflation, where most people aren't even a high yield savings account. They put most of their money inside of a checking account. And then at the end of the month, they get their dividend payment for $10,000. Like, you got 61 cents for that. And they're happy with that.
Yeah. That's a scam, bro. That is such a scam. I hate it. I hate it. But yeah, you're 100% right on the SoFi bank accounts and different high yield savings. If you're not beating inflation, you're getting beaten by inflation. Get that through your head,
Yep.
guys.
Yeah, because you might be able to take that $10,000, put it in a shoe, and stick that shoe underneath your bed. And in 10 years, you're still going to have that $10,000, given that there's no fire or anything that happens. But will that $10,000 still purchase you $10,000 worth of goods in 10 years? It will not. It would typically, if you wait 10 years, that $10,000 will purchase you $7,000 of goods
Damn.
in today's number.
Damn.
So something to think on. You're losing huge amounts of purchasing power by waiting that long.
Damn.
Now, that's not to say to not save your money. Of course, it's not saying that, but we can look for ways to invest our money to have it grow over the rate of inflation.
Okay. And we talk about that all the time on the podcast. How to grow your money.
We
Past,
do.
Yeah.
We do.
We got like 50, we got like 50 podcasts
podcast.
on that. Yeah. Yeah. A whole podcast is based around that. Okay. Okay. So that's a good one to safeguard your future.
Mm-hmm. Money secret number 10. Money worries are common and normal. Everyone deals with money worries. There is not a point in life that I have met anyone, working with people making $30,000, working with people who are millionaires. Everyone experiences money worries. You are not alone. Just because you're worried that you don't have enough, that you're not saving enough, that you might not be able to reach retirement, that you're not saving enough for your child's future, that's okay. So is everyone else. Just no one talks about it. And as you grow up the financial income ladder, some problems go away. Maybe now we're not worried about how I'm going to make rent anymore as you go up to the next level. But now you're going to be met with a new problem of how much can I afford on a mortgage? And then as you go up, it's just going to keep on coming on to new and new levels. Everyone deals with them. You take small steps to address your anxiety. And if you really need help, you can always seek support. You can seek help from a financial advisor. I've always talked about like therapy as a different way of looking at that. You can even reach out to me, Chris at Monzon Wealth, because I actually do financial therapy with my clients to figure out what's going on, what's holding them back. Because as someone who did financial planning for so long, I found that even if you give someone the perfect financial plan, if someone has a belief in their mind that they're not worthy or that they can't execute on it, that plan is worth jack. So first you have to work on your money mindset and figure out what's going on internally. And that sometimes by looking at that, you're able to figure out the anxieties and the worries that people have. And people think like, oh, I'm not good with money because I am worried about it. So sometimes just telling somebody, everyone's worried about it. Even me as a financial professional, I'm worried about it. At the end of the day, I have to trade my life energy for money. Of course I'm going to be worried about it. I'm trading my life for this intangible thing or for this tangible good, which is money that can do whatever I want with it. Of course it feels weird, and that's okay.
That was beautiful. Elegantly said. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Everybody worries about it. But it's like that thing we talked about. I think it was maybe last pod or whatnot. It's like you don't worry about what other people are thinking about you because they're worried about what you're thinking about them. Everybody's worried about themselves. So, you're not that famous, you're not that big, you're not that important to where everybody's looking at you and staring at you like you feel like it. Like, no, we all have our own problems. We all worry about very similar things. Is there salad in my teeth? Am I going to run out of money? Do my children love me? All these fun topics. So it's nice to know that rich or poor, we still have the same societal problems, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you are that person who is getting started and you're worried about your money, the first thing I typically recommend people do is start tracking your spending. That way you know how much is going out. Because once you have that information, while it may be scary in the moment, at least you know, okay, I know that this much is going out. I know this is how much I'm making. Am I positive or am I negative? And then from there, you can start making decisions. But if it's a black box that you have no idea what's going on, of course, it's going to cause you more anxiety and more stress. Most of the time, once you shine a light on that big, scary monster, you realize it's not as big and scary as you think it is. Or maybe sometimes that monster is something that's welcoming you to live a better life if you just look at it and work alongside it.
Yeah. Fear can either be a bridge or it can be a barrier, but it's up to you to decide which one.
Yep. Secret number 11. Not talking about money can kill a relationship. Open communication is key in all relationships, whether that be romantic or even friendships. So money is always a strain, or money can always be a strain. So it's important that we're communicating openly with our partners and asking them for help when we need it.
I like that. You think money can also kill a relationship between family members, like mother and son,
Yeah.
son and father, Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because like if you don't if your parents are getting older and you don't talk about money, you know, you don't realize it's like, oh, they might have hundreds of $1,000s in debt that they just never told you about, right? That could wreck a relationship. Like, why didn't you come to me for help, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Or even worse, maybe the parents, their idea is when I'm not going to save for my retirement because my kids are going to take care of me. This has been like some implied thought. And the kid isn't thinking for that because they're not planning for that. They're not saving money to move their parents into a casita or whatever it is. And now they're getting thrown like, hey, I raised you for your first 18 years. Now you have to take care of me for my next 30. So
That's a wild.
Those are thoughts that we need to talk about. We always need to go through that. As we build understanding with one another, as we build trust, money can actually strengthen our relationships. But we have to work through that. Same thing with like raising kids, right? No parents both just woke up and they were perfect parents. They figured it out by trial and error and open communication. And I think that money and kids are very similar. But with the kids, there's this tangible thing that you guys have to figure it out, or the kid isn't going to like be viable, or do well. And every parent says what they want from their kid is to live a happy and healthy life. But with money, that's something we can put off and put off and put off and put off. And then eventually it becomes such a big problem that either we figure it out or we end up in divorce. 50% of marriages end in divorce. And out of that 50%, 60% of them, 60 to 70, is because money was the number one issue that led to that divorce. And I would say that majority of that is because people don't openly communicate because they're afraid of money and they don't know how to talk around it. And that's okay if you don't know how to talk around it, but you need to start to learn to talk around it. And again, it's a skill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a skill to have great communication with not only your partner, but with the people around you and even yourself, to not punish and to forgive and move forward from mistakes and different things like that. Yeah.
And I would recommend, if this is something new to you, go back and listen to episode 29 of the Five Guys podcast, where we talk all about the money date. This is something I still use with my wife to this day. This script that I laid out exactly to this day to be able to get on the same page financially every month, every 2 weeks, to make sure that we're moving towards our goals. Even as goals change, our constant check-ins is what allows us to work through it. And for us, money is not a source of division. It's a source of empowerment that we are both on the exact same page. And we're working towards a common goal.
I like that. I feel like most people don't understand that money can be a source of empowerment, and to see it happen between you and your wife, I think that's really awesome.
So, money secret number 11.
Okay.
Money secret number 12.
Oh?
Payment plans exist for almost everything. So if you're facing a large bill, this mainly comes, when I think of it, is medical expenses. You can always ask for a reduction or a payment plan. You don't have to put it all in full. I've unfortunately met a lot of people in the past who they got an unexpected bill from the hospital, maybe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And we know the average American doesn't have enough money to pay for a $400 expense. So what do they end up doing because they have this bill and they're worried? They put it on a credit card. And now they have a credit card that has 20%, 25%, 30% interest, and they're making it worse, where had they talked to someone beforehand, they could have known. They could have just gone back to the hospital and said, hey, I can't make this payment right now. Can we break this $3,000 payment up into $300 increments for the next 10 months? Is that possible with no interest? Yes. Most medical places are willing to make that negotiation with you, because if they don't and they have to send you to collections, they're going to make far less than it. And then it's just going to follow you and ruin your life. And they don't want that for you. They want to make their money the best way they possibly can. And that goes to a bunch of different things. Medical debt is where my mind's going, but in all things, a payment plan most of the time exists, and it's always worth an ask. Same thing with negotiating.
Interesting. Yeah, you don't want to get hit with the collection people. Those guys are vicious, right? And they never stop.
But if you keep it in house, you explain the situation, you tell them what's going on, you say, I want to make this right, but I just don't have the money right now. And you can always use the word hardship. This will create financial hardship for me. What financial plan can I use? That's the word that they need to hear often.
Interesting. Okay. So that was number 12, correct?
That was number 12. And I said I was going to give you one extra, but there's so many different secrets. I want to give you two extra because we have some
Beautiful.
time.
Awesome.
So,
let's hear it.
Yeah. So number 13, prepare for unexpected losses. So understand that you can lose money quickly. So don't let your ego get in the way of taking the necessary precautions to protect yourself and your family. You can have insurance. You should have an emergency fund. You should plan to place or put plans in place to protect yourself financially. Too many people think, oh, well, I made all this money, and if something goes wrong, I can make it all again.
Yeah.
But this is hitting home for me right now, because I just recently went out and I'm looking again for another term life insurance on myself, just to make sure that, as me and my wife start looking to create a family, God forbid if something happens to me, I need to make sure that my wife is protected and that my future child is protected. Because while it might be something quick of like, oh, well, Chris, statistically, you're probably not going to die over the next 20 to 25 years. Yeah, probably not. And that's the goal, right? Is to not die.
Yeah.
But if I did die, what would that leave for my family? It'd be awful. Tomorrow I could wake up and no longer be able to talk. And if I couldn't talk anymore, we wouldn't be able to do this podcast. I wouldn't be able to market to my clients. We'd be able to talk to my clients outside of email. How much money would I lose due to that? So having my emergency fund, having the insurance, having my disability insurance, all that stuff protects me and gives me a buffer to figure it all out. Where so many people are skating on the ledge at all times, hoping that nothing goes wrong. As long as me and my spouse keep our jobs, as long as nothing goes wrong with the cars, as long as no one gets hurt, we're going to do good. And then eventually something happens. Someone loses their job. Someone gets in a car crash. Someone breaks a leg. And now they go directly into financial debt because they never prepared for what happens if something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's a scary place to be when you're just hoping that nothing goes wrong. And hope is not a strategy. As we've talked about on the podcast before, hope is never a strategy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good, very much needed bonus tip. And you said 2 bonus tips?
Yeah, I got one extra for you.
What do we got?
Final bonus tip: be patient. Building up your wealth takes time. You don't have to be particularly smart. You just have to be patient, a la Warren Buffett.
There you go. Uncle Warren.
Yeah, I remember there was I was watching an interview with Tony Robbins, and he asked Warren Buffett, this was years ago, what made you the wealthiest man in the world? And Buffett replied, there's 3 things: living in America for the great opportunities, having good genes so I lived a long time, and compound interest. It was being patient, taking time. So many people, we go online, we look at TikTok, we look at Instagram, we look at whatever, and it's all people showing you their best curated life of how much money they have right now. But if you look at the statistics, most YouTubers, most influencers are flat freaking broke. Like they don't have any money at all, but they're putting out this life. Last time I was in LA, going through LAX, I saw one of the like, it's not fake, but it's a real jet that people wait at to go and take photos. Like it's there at LAX. And some smart freaking business guy purchased a jet and doesn't even fly it around, or I'm sure he uses it to fly around, but then he also just uses it to let influencers or charge influencers to go inside there and take photos as if they live that life. Like I've seen that jet before.
Oh my God. That's wild. That's actually wild.
So you don't have to be particularly smart. Yep. You just have to be patient. And so many people, they want that quick fix. They want to be rich right now. And sometimes just like going to the casino and putting it all on red or on one number, rich right now, it hits and it works. And you might think you're a genius, but for that one story that it worked out well for, there are 100 other stories of people losing money. The best way to make money is patiently. There is no way to get rich quick, but there is a way to get wealthy over time.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I appreciate all of those steps, all 14 of them. We got 14 in there.
All 14 of them.
Guaranteed 12.
We got 14. And of course,
with 2 bonuses. We like that.
With 2 bonuses. And of course, there's always more. Like I've thought of so many different money secrets, but I wanted to pare it down to the things that are most important to our audience here today. So our action step is, we did cover quite a few things today. What I want you to do, focus on one money secret that we spoke about today and become 1% better in that aspect this week.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Whatever you want it to be. It can be making sure that you're spending less than you make. It could be negotiate on your credit card annual fee. It could be creating a second sort of income stream. Or it could even be looking at your financial decisions or your financial past, what your parents taught you, and working through those things.
Absolutely.
Any one of the 14, take any one of them, get 1% better this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week, choose another one, do it again.
There you go. That's some momentum you can build on. And also, if you're watching on
Mhm.
YouTube, feel free to comment in the comment section which of the 14 was your favorite. We're very curious. See if maybe you'll match with one of us, and maybe we'll reach out and let you know. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's it for today's podcast. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I think that is good. So if you liked, please like, subscribe. If you've listened this far, I don't know why you're not subscribed. Leave a comment. Tell us which one of the 14 secrets was your favorite. And please, if you got value from today's show, share the Fi Guys with a friend or family member. Tell somebody about us so that we continue to grow for you, get on better guests in order to help you on your path to financial independence.
Till then, we'll see you when we see you. Later, guys.
I'm Chris. He's Dom. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.